Hi, everybody.
Всем привет.
It's in English.
Oi, no, that was in Russian.
Uh,
I bet half the people speak Russian.
Ukrainian, other languages. Okay.
All right. Hello.
Hi, everybody. And today we would like to talk about why to study these teachings because the mind is more than just you are more than just your body and mind, right?
Mm-hmm. I think you can go even more simple than that. Why study these?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're human, you have problems, and then you want to solve them, right? And you want to solve them effectively. And these courses do an extraordinary job of explaining why you have problems, what to do with them, and what's possible, like how far you can go to get out of them, right? Get completely free from your suffering.
Mm-hmm. And I think not every person will say that they suffer. Probably, mostly people they say, yeah, okay, time to time I have problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think also why you want to study it because maybe everything is great in your life. I actually don't think nowadays there are many people that think this way,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But you may have this feeling that you do not know why actually you live, like what is the sense of it, what is there any meaning, is there any purpose, are you supposed to do anything with your life, right? And you have this feeling of being stuck maybe. Because to be honest, I can really relate to it. I was 27 years old when I reached all my goals I was thinking I have for this life, and I really didn't know what to do next.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a similar experience. I was in my late 20s, had a good job, had a nice apartment downtown, basically had nothing to do other than entertain myself. And then like, okay, well, now what, right? And now what am I going to do? And then you didn't have to look too far down the road, right? And you could see, well, okay, this body isn't going to continue. I'm going to die. Then what? And I mean, to be fair, it was actually a friend of mine had a near-death experience, and then it was like, oh, okay, well, what happens if your consciousness continues on afterwards, and is it really going to continue on? And then, what does your time here mean if that's going to happen, right? Because there was a lot of people in the 20th century that were saying, your your body and is a machine. Your mind is a product of your body. When the body stops, the mind stops. It's all over. Am I jumping ahead?
No, I want just to correct, like
Right.
I come from science, right? I'm a medical doctor, and I defended my PhD thesis when I was 27, and they still think this way. I mean, they see that there are limitations. You can research, I mean, ChatGPT and Google will help you. What they think happens after a person dies, and where you have your personality, right? And where your personality comes from. And you will be surprised with the, how to say, these very strange ideas that we have in the science. And it's not their fault that it is very difficult to develop, but the science has limitations. And in these limitations, they cannot really detect anything prior to the birth, right? And sometimes they fail to use logic to see how it works actually, mind and body relationship.
Yeah, I think that's one of the brilliant things about these courses is that they're looking at the world from a different perspective than what we've gotten in a standard Western education. And then if you have the flexibility of mind to look at this and say, oh, okay, yeah, they have a point, right? Well, what about that? And then it opens the door to a whole lot of other things. It opens the door to a different way of living life, right? And so, and a more effective way of living life. Because I'm convinced that your mind is not the product of your body. And actually, when I got out of 3-year retreat, because I'd spent a long time meditating and looking at the nature of the mind and looking, contemplating these teachings. And I got out and I was like, I bet there's evidence. I bet there's evidence that your mind is not the product of your body, that your consciousness, and then the implication of that being that your consciousness will continue on. And I got out of retreat and started looking for something, right? And then I ran into people. If you've seen us talk, I've talked about this book before. It came out of the University of Virginia. It's an academic work. And the Kellys put together
the name.
Well, the name is Irreducible Mind, Towards the Psychology for the 21st Century. And it's looking at records. It's looking at the evidence of things that wouldn't be possible if your body was producing your consciousness, if your body was producing your mind. And things like, why does a placebo work? What is there? Like if medicine has the ability to heal in the medicine, why does a placebo work? And this is, Ina studied it in her part of her medical studies, that 30% of the effectiveness of medicine.
About 33.
Okay, 33. About 33% of the effectiveness of medicine comes from the placebo effect. It's pretty extraordinary. Like, why is that? What is there about that? And then, there are other cases of people, they'll know something at a distance, right? Like, you'll hear stories of things like a child will be in an accident and the mother will be like 300 miles away and they'll know it instantly. How does that happen, right? How are people aware of things that are happening at a distance? If your consciousness is locked inside your skull because it's a product of the brain, how does this happen? And if there were many, many examples inside the book, things that how would that be possible? And it doesn't have to happen regularly for it to call into question the nature of the mind. If it happens even once, you have to say, well, how was that possible, right? And if you're going to have a coherent worldview, if you're going to have a really functioning worldview, it has to take into account that, right? Like, why is that possible?
Mm-hmm. And I want to address here a little bit about our science. Imagine you being a scientist, right? And you have like coherent, oops, coherent, oops. But this data that do not match, they need to be explained. And what if you do not have data to explain it, right? Then this is how science works. It is called exact science, right? Exact knowledge, but actually it isn't. I can tell you from being there for many years, because we are humans and we cannot explain everything right away. And then what we do with these things that drop out of our experience, we have to ignore them, right? As scientists, they have to ignore them and to say like, okay, it functions most of the times, right? And then sometimes it doesn't, but actually this is the best we can do. They have to do it, right? They're not guilty, but Also, unfortunately, humans being humans, we have a tendency when I have discovered something to glue to this discovery, right? And to think, oh, this is my discovery, my precious. And I have students, I have the whole school based on it. Of course, I will not say I was wrong, right? So it's kind of also human and understandable and difficult, but it stops our progress sometimes. And I think if you are a real scientist, what you will do with this, you know, like everything coherent, coherent, something, don't know, you know, like why it happened, then you will put it on the shelf and you will say, okay, probably the whole stuff does not really work, but this is the best that we have. And then it will be honest, right? This is the best I came out with, but there is a part that I cannot explain, and I will leave it as it is without ignoring it.
And they do. It's pretty common for humans to ignore that blip, right? Like, you know, we can't measure it, so we're not going to look at it.
And also something that you can find, for example, in medical studies, right? I was studying medicine over 10 years. Usually you have big changes like every 5 years. And first time it happened, like I remember, was for Helicobacter pylori. It's a microorganism that they think now causes ulcer, you know, and some types of gastritis. So it was a big discovery. Oh my God, we were not treating it correctly. It should not be treated with antacids and blah, 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 stuff blocking acid, etc. Anyway, histamine 2 blockers, etc. So, but it should be treated with antibiotics, and there was a huge wave. Okay, forget everything you learned. Now it's antibiotics. You know, we will heal every single patient with ulcer. And my ex-husband had a very bad ulcer. And he was like, ooh, wow. And he was studying gastroenterology. So he was in the core of all these things. We were going to conferences, congresses, you know, related to it, like best of the best, like the latest evolutionary approach. And then what happened? 5 years went by. They say, oh, you know, it's not only Helicobacter pylori, but also there are some factors, you know, like when they say some factors, some other factors, multifactorial disease, know that they don't know. Okay, it means that they didn't figure. So it means that many people took antibiotics, and there were some of them that got helped, like they got treated. Like my ex-husband, he actually had several years with no attacks of ulcer, right? But also these several years were at the same time years when he left his parental family, right? And then stopped having it. So what worked? Difficult to say. But this is what's going on, right? And I also call this issue after does not mean because. And we will talk more about it.
And we should probably say here too that we do go to regular Western doctors, and we do get their help.
And you should.
And you should, and they are helpful. So it's not a matter of, you know, the doctors, it's not an either or thing. Doctors can help and they do want to help. And it's just, there's more to the story, right? Yeah, more to the story.
And the fact that something is changing, for me, being at medical school, was a positive thing. I was like, wow, it means this is real science. everything is changing, progressing, like we are making progress. This is why we have all these revolutionary ideas. 5 years after the new revolutionary idea, we say, yeah, okay, this one was incorrect. Then we have a new second revolutionary idea, right? And then it's strange, but it never came to my mind. If you constantly change it, then none of it was true, actually. Like when you come to the truth, normally it does not change, right? If something works, why would it stop working, right?
Right. And people, this is one of those cultural things too. We all have ideas that come from our culture about something that may or may not have been proven. And it's very hard to recognize when something you think is true is simply cultural, that's held to be true without any real evidence. And that's where, in this course, one of the things that we're going to look at is how to use logic to clarify, what really is true. And we'll look at some examples of like false reasoning, and all of it's designed to help you figure out what's going on in your life so that you can get the most out of it. And frankly, what the most is pretty dang extraordinary. It's its own story.
So I'm calling it inner honesty, right? It's kind of scary to be constantly honest with yourself because you will have to change constantly, right? And sometimes you have no desire to change. Sometimes you have no resources. I mean, you can be exhausted emotionally or physically, and like more changes. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, well, that is kind of fair, because society will push back if you if you aren't thinking like the rest of them. But
well, you can tell about it, right?
everybody can, right? If they go far enough. But and what are you gonna do? I think, frankly, it's gonna be scarier living your life based on wrong ideas, based on a false idea of what's happening and why it's happening in your world.
Yeah, and this is, by the way, exactly what I wanted to talk about, right? What happens, let's say, let's take medicine, right? Medicine. Like, what happens when you do not really know the cause of a disease, right? And you try to treat it. Oi, better don't, right? Because this is when I say blah 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 factorial multi etiology, they call it disease. I mean, they do their best, and thank you all the doctors on this planet. They're doing their job as good as they can, I know it, but we should go far, right? We should not stop on this. And if there is a possibility to make, I don't know, every single medicine effective, right? To heal every single disease, imagine if there is such a possibility. Wouldn't you try to study it a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So when you do not, same like, I do not know what causes, for example, COVID, right? Forget about treating it. And if I do not know why I have problems in my life, I cannot stop them. It is impossible. Or even worse, I have COVID, but I think that I have something else, and I get treatment for something else that is damaging my organism, and it is even it cannot resist to the virus that I have, right? For example, it is, I don't know, chemotherapy that is damaging immune system, right? Will not be same. So imagine that the reality does not work like you think. And you have some other conceptions. It's like, I don't know, I remember once funny, not funny, really actually quite cruel meme that somebody steps on the face of
the child.
the
with the boot.
child,
Yeah.
with the boot, right? And then you see another image, and actually it was all faked, right?
Yeah, well, the child had the boot in his hand and was pressing the boot against his own head, right?
Yeah.
Which is really, and that's to kind of jump ahead. We're doing it to ourselves. And the reason why we're talking about the mind and the nature of the mind, and whether it's the result of a physical process or whether it's its own separate thing, is because in this school of thought, we're convinced that your mind is creating your experience of the world, both positive and negative. And that's why we're looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
So
when you do not know the real cause, then you not only do not succeed, but you actually harm yourself. You hurt yourself badly, right? This is why it is important.
One of the interesting examples of something being different than what is conventionally believed is that if your mind, if your consciousness is the product of your brain, then your memories should be stored in your brain, right? And it's called the trace theory of memory. And that billions of dollars have been spent looking for where, like, okay, the physical piece of memory is stored. And to make a long story short, they can't find it. Personally, I'm convinced they're never going to find it because it's not stored in here. It's stored. The mind is storing the memories, and we're going to talk about that. The mental seeds that your mind is planting. It's a longer story. We'll go into it later, but it's a really fascinating story, because if you've seen this and then you go back, I get excited and I talk fast because it's really interesting.
Sorry, translators.
So maybe we can play it on YouTube at like the 0.75 speed or something later, but it's really fascinating, because once you've looked at this worldview, you can go back into the scientific papers and read them, and you can see, oh, they're not even taking into account the possibility that maybe your memories aren't stored in your brain. They're just dancing around, frankly, the same wrong idea.
And we do not criticize scientists here, right?
No,
we just try to say that there is we can do something better with this, right? Yeah. If our mind is open for new opportunities. And I want to echo Bill's explanations about memory, and I can tell that I was particularly interested in this subject when I was studying my medical stuff, and also I was working in neuroscience when I was doing clinical trials. So I kind of was up to date, right, with what was going on in this science. And it was always very interesting, because you read it like you logic, up, and then like something and then the conclusion, and you think, did I miss something? Maybe I'm stupid. I read it again, logic, and then there is a jump, from here to where they were leading to.
It's so funny, because usually it'll be something like, and there was a problem with this, but we'll solve it
in the future. Or we are doing new kind of studies that will be able to prove it, or something like that. Or based on this data, we suppose, it's not a proof anymore, right?
Right. Well, and it will take us 5 to 10 years, but we'll solve this problem. And so it's like, oh, come on,
So to summarize it, there is no consistent theory. I know you heard about mRNA's memory ribonucleic acids that store memory, right? But it is not actually 100% clear what they're doing, and because they were not able to locate, like, for example, this memory is stored here or this memory is stored there. They're not able to do it.
And we're not saying that your brain doesn't have a role in the way that you're interacting with it. We're not saying that. We're saying that the brain is a product of the mind, not that the mind is a product of the brain. So yeah, if you damage your brain, it's going to change the way you're interacting with the world, obviously, but it's not the root cause. And we'll look at all this deeper later. And again, the reason why we're looking at it is because in our worldview, the worldview that we're convinced is accurate, your mind is creating not just your consciousness, not just your awareness of the world, but it's creating that your awareness of the world is your world, and that's being created by the mind. It's really profound, frankly.
Mm-hmm. So when you think about, I want to go back to the subject, right? Is the mind in your brain or separate from something else than your body and brain, right? So there are two basic things that you can feel related to the subject, like why this can be important. And funny enough, we represent different sides with Bill, because for him, when he realized that, my mind is not in my brain, right? And my brain does not produce my mind. It's the other way around. He was scared. I was happy, you know. For him, it was maybe you want to say why you were scared.
Well, not scared, but
Worried,
right? Because then it's like, okay, what happens? So if your body stops and your mind stops, well, then, okay, it's over, it's done, there's nothing. But if your mind keeps going after your body stops, well, then what, right? And, rumors of heaven and hell, and then, we're
maybe yes, maybe no.
Maybe yes, maybe what's going to happen then, right? And then if something's definitely going to happen, I mean, there's an infinite amount of time after I'm done with this body, right? Where am I going to go? What's going to happen? And boy, I sure want that to be a positive experience and not a negative. And then how do you make it a positive experience, if it's going to continue on? Is it going to continue on? And how do you have a positive experience at that point? We're all very concerned about a positive experience today, but it only makes sense to be concerned about one tomorrow. And those tomorrows extend on forever if your mind is going to continue on after your body's done.
Yeah, and for me, it was the other way around, because I was born in an atheistic country. So, and I had, since probably 5-6 years old, I was thinking about, I don't know, somehow I had these ideas like where I was before I was born. I do not see anything in my memory, just something black, like a black curtain or something that just. And then my parents said, yeah, you were nothing, and just you just appeared, like. And by the way, by chance, because could be anything, but it came out you. And if it sounds silly, but this is the science belief, right? That the mind consciousness is a mistake, or at the very least, it's random. didn't have to happen, but somehow happened, based on the body. And then you ask your parents, and what will happen after I die? I mean, my great grandmother died. I was like around 5 years old. I had philosophical disputes with her. She was trying to convince me that there is a God, but I was brainwashed already in my kindergarten. And I told her it's not true. He does not exist, and I will prove to you why. So I started to do logic, in early age, and I told her he does not exist because I can call him stupid, and he will not do me anything bad. And I did. So she was crying. I was thinking I won. And then she died in 1 year. And she made a wish that her youngest great-granddaughter, me, should carry her icon in front of the cemetery procession. So, and I was like several kilometers, was not close. And I had a lot of time to think about life and death and what it means, and the God, does he play any role in all of this, and where my great grandmother went. And so, like, and you ask your parents, and they say, yeah, you will be nothing again. And I was scared to death. I mean, scared to death of death.
Yeah, it was, I was pretty much the same way, that I just thought science had disproved the idea of religion, and, that they looked at everything logically, and that we were just animals or machines, and it was all going to end. And more or less comfortable with that idea, more or less. And then
not comfortable at all.
And then, but then it was a close friend's near-death experience, and then you hear something like that from somebody you trust, that, oh my gosh, this person literally died on the operating table, and then you start looking into it. Well, okay, so their heart stopped. Did their brain stop? Okay, did their brain stop? And then it's pretty extraordinary, frankly. You start looking into it, and you're like, oh, okay. And then you start talking to people, and lots of people, it's actually pretty common, have had some kind of experience that was beyond, or different, or not really explainable in any kind of conventional way. And they just kind of keep it quiet, because people don't know what to do with it. It doesn't fit into their normal worldview. But the thing is if you're really going to approach your life clearly, if you're really going to take care of your problems, accomplish what you want to accomplish, you have to be honest about what it is to be alive, about what it is to be human. What do you do with those moments, like a near-death experience from a friend, or somebody tells you that they were able to see something at a distance, which, I mean, frankly, I've seen examples of people where they've been able to tell me what I was doing when I was hundreds of miles away. And like, well, how did you do that, right? How is that possible? And again, if it happens even once, you have to account for it in your worldview.
But
But
it didn't happen to them, right?
Well, it probably has happened something similar to many of these people, which is why they're here, right?
Yeah, right. But imagine it didn't.
Yeah.
Then what we do with this?
Well, then you can start looking into it logically, right? And how do you take what are you going to take as a valid source? That's one of the subjects we'll cover. Like what does it mean to have a valid perception? What can you take as an authority. Like, why would you believe something?
Yeah. How do you decide for yourself?
Yeah.
This is true, this is not true. If you think it is difficult, it's not.
Yeah.
It is all described, and it is called clear thinking
And
or logic.
And it's really helpful. One of the great things about this course, I know we call it the foundational courses, and it's been really exciting for me to go back over these 20 years since I first went through them. And because the ideas are so big, that they're so helpful. They really are foundational to your life and the way that you look at it and the way you approach your relationships, your job, the everything about the way you live your life, and extremely helpful in doing that in a way that's functional, right? And it's not that I don't make mistakes. I do, but it helps you get it helps you get better. And this course in particular, looking at the nature of the mind, where does the mind come from? It really is foundational, very helpful. Like I used to think when my teachers would say, this is the best idea, this is the best teaching, this is and I'm like, they're just selling me on it, right? You're just exaggerating because you want me to do the homework. But then the thing is that you come back to it later and you're like, oh my gosh, this is the best idea. This is huge. This. And then, a month later, you go into another course, and you're like, oh, well, no, this is the best idea. They're all really, it's really profound. And I'll jump ahead. What's happened is in history, in time, people, very special people, have meditated very deeply and taken their mind's ability to a level that's extraordinary. And they've looked at their own mind, and they've looked at the nature of the world with an ability that's been focused by meditation to an extremely high level. And they've had the ability to see the nature of our world, of their world directly. And like, okay, this is what's happening. And then they come back and write about it. They say, look, this is the nature of it. And this is how you're going to take care of all your problems, get rid of all the suffering. And this is what's capable. This is what you're capable of. This is where you can go. It's really, it's extraordinary. It's really, really extraordinary.
I want to add here
Sure.
something. Like, I think I'm very fortunate to have Bill every day with me, because he has proven with his life these teachings, right? So he had the chance to go to his 3-year retreat, and like he knew something, like it's like your GPS, that first there will be a gas station, then there will be a shopping mall. Somebody told you, or you can see it on your in your GPS application, right? And then you really drive it, and then okay, gas station, okay, really shopping mall. Then you have more trust that the GPS application really knows what's ahead, right?
Yeah.
And you will not end up in the middle of the field or like Michigan or somewhere else, but you will really get to the airport or whatever. So, and Bill he's a smart man, believe me. And he studies these teachings.
I'm going to quote you on that later sometime.
Say my love. He's embarrassing me, because believe me, I never questioned his capacities. So, so he has 25 years in his teachings, right? And he didn't quit. He started with one of the brilliant minds in this country, right? Professor Hopkins in Virginia, in the university, at the University of Virginia. He decided to take his course, Professor Hopkins' course on this worldview, right? And never quit, right? Went to
sometimes we're charged than others, but never quit.
Never quit, yeah. And not only he didn't quit, he did his 3-year retreat, and I really love asking him about his experience in 3-year retreat. And like, for example, the fact that we have all our memories inside, right? Ask him, he will tell you that with the time in your retreat, when everything comes down and you get more settled, right? More peaceful, then you start to have the lots of memories you would never think you have them, right? You forgot how important it was, like childhood memories, like small, the most important things you had in your childhood, right? That you forgot. So, and stuff like that. And I am 10 years in this worldview teachings. I don't know how to say, make an experiment on my own life with these teachings, right? My 10-year clinical trial on a human, right? On myself. And I have the same experience, like you come to these courses, and course number 1, you are given a map. Okay, something will happen, and you will go here, you will go there, tin, 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 tin. And then it really starts happening, right? And then you think, okay, it does work, right? I should go further. I can drive safely, because first things worked, probably it does work later on.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, when I came out of, when I went into 3-year retreat, I was like, okay, I was 95% sure that this worldview was accurate. And I was like, I'll be honest with people when I get out about what happens. And I've still got more to learn, a lot more. I am far from perfect, but I'm convinced that this worldview is accurate.
how many percent?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe 99.99%. But,
Is it debater? Debaters, they always leave the back door open. Okay, so that was why to study it, right? And what can happen? Like, okay, what can happen? I can tell you what. Things that you would never imagine can happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's leave it here.
Well, honestly, okay, so here, if the world is random, or if some outside force is doing it to you, you're kind of stuck, right? You're going to get buffeted about by something random, or pushed around by something that's more powerful than you. But if your mind is creating your own experience, then you can create whatever you want to create. And I'm convinced that that is the case. I'm convinced that your mind is creating your experience of the world. And I'm convinced that if you understand this, you can get control of the process, and you can create whatever you want to create for yourself. And I think if you're a human, you are literally capable of more than what you can imagine right now. That you can't imagine what you're capable of, that there's that much potential in your mind. And it's that potential that motivated me to leave everything else behind. I had a pretty good functional life. But
Yeah.
the potential for this was so much greater than that. And it's why we're here talking to you for free, right? I mean, we won't charge for these classes because it's how could you charge for something, right? Like, the world has so many problems, and if you think that you have an idea that can genuinely help people, how could you charge for it, right? And so it's why we'll teach the ACI courses, the foundational courses, and if you get done with that, we'll keep teaching you the higher courses. There's quite a bit left. So
so now you know what to study, right? If you have similar experiences with your life that either you don't know how to get rid of your problems, then this is a blessing because you can really learn something that will not stop only one problem, but has a potential to stop all your problems altogether. And second, if you are not really suffering right now, if you do not feel like your life is bad, but you are restless, right? I was restless. I didn't know what to do, where to go, because it was like, okay, my life is pretty good. I accomplished the biggest things I wanted for my life by 27. And if the science is right and I will have to die, I mean, I don't really know what to do with my life between 27 and my death because I don't have new goals. I mean, what should I do?
Frankly, our lives are pretty good. Our marriage is good. Our family's doing fine. We have enough money. We're healthy. And we're still working on this is what we do. We're still working on this every day because time is going to run out, right? You can't hold on to this.
Imagine that if you are fine right now, right? You're happy, everybody is healthy. Like, how long will it last?
Yeah.
Like, imagine 50 years went by, just conservative, right? Everybody will have changes in 50 years from now. Then what?
Yeah, then what?
So, and there would be no reason to talk about it if there would be no hope. So there is a set of information / practices, let's call it teachings, that can help you to understand how this world really works. And then you do baby steps, do something, like then you do bigger steps because you are becoming more and more capable of walking this path, right? And then you are like running, then you have a bicycle, then you have a car, then you have like like in a good computer game, you get more stuff.
Level up.
Level up. So, and then you have an airplane, and then you have a rocket, and then when you have a rocket, don't miss the moon. You don't want to go into the space, and not to miss the point where you want to land on, right? You need this whole set of 18 courses that we are teaching.
Yeah, and it's not, this isn't something that Ina and I made up. It's not something that our teachers made up. There's a long history of people who have used this wisdom and recorded what they've learned from it. I mean, it goes back thousands of years, and they've outlined a path how to go from being a completely ordinary human being to somebody where all your problems are solved and
evolve.
And
it's path of humans' evolution.
It's really pretty extraordinary. There's a path, and laid it out clearly, and all of the, excuse me, but
Bless you.
there's a path. They've laid it out clearly, and all of the teachings that you need, all of the material that you need, it's here, and in a format that can be taught. It's really, I know I keep saying this, but it's the most precious thing on the planet, and please don't let it go. Please come back and stick around for the rest of the story. It's extraordinary.
Yeah. So, and if you resonated somehow to what we were talking about, we invite you to study with us our ACI courses. So now we are doing ACI 4 starting tomorrow. One of our favorite ones, because it's
Because this is the best one.
the best one. I mean, honestly, when I was doing ACI 4, I was thinking proof of past and future lives. Okay, interesting. What is the proof? And then, like, really? This is a proof?
Mhm.
It's not a proof. What is this? And the reason why you may dismiss it like I did it at the first time I was doing it, is that this knowledge is so far away from my ordinary life. And my ordinary life does not work at all. I mean, I have all these problems. And if I try something again and again and it doesn't work, it means it is wrong. And then to switch to something that works, sometimes it's a huge leap. And then you do this leap of faith. Okay, you say, yeah, okay, I don't really understand it. I will try it. Maybe out of experience, out of experiment, it will work. And then you think, oh, okay, it looks like it does work, right? And then at some point, you read again the same set of proofs and you think, wow, it is so logical. My mind was completely corrupt. I mean, it was so inaccurate what I was thinking that I couldn't even get that it was actually really logical.
Mm.
So, and we will study logic together, and you will come at one point to this feeling that wow, okay, it all makes perfectly sense.
Mm-hmm. It's a pretty common experience as you go through these teachings where you'll hit something and like, well, I don't know about that.
Rejected.
Yeah, I don't know about that. That doesn't really, I don't know if I can accept that. And then the consistent advice is, well, don't throw it away and put it on a shelf, let it
Cook it.
let it age, okay, that wine wasn't ready to drink. Put it in the cellar. Let it sit, let it sit there for 10 or 20 years, then come back and it'll taste better, right? And because you won't be able to prove it wrong either, right? You'll look at it and say, I don't know if that's right, but I can't prove it's wrong. And then something will happen. You'll be able to come back to it later and like, okay, yeah, I get it now. I can accept that now.
Yeah. I also can say that I plan to start a group of debates. So, because you will need to learn to debate in these teachings, otherwise you will not be able to distinguish if this is right or wrong. So it's actually very fun. We are going, meanwhile, in late October, Bill and I, we go to you know, the monastery that started this tradition. It is called Saramay. It's in South India. It's where Geshe Michael received his Geshe degree. And this is the monastery from where his teacher, Ken Rinpoche, that was also Bill's teacher in the beginning, came from. And we will study Tibetan to be even better teachers for you, and to be able to translate from the source. And we will do also a debate course there ourselves. So pretty extraordinary, I think.
Yeah, excited about
Very excited.
the time to go.
Yeah. So thank you for coming today. Please stay around and come to ACI classes, because this is honestly the best thing you can do for yourself, the best in this world.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. This wisdom will help you get what you want. You can get what you want with it, and it will help you want the right things.
Yeah, not the things that will kill you at the end.
Yeah, not the things you think you want, but the things that will really make you happy.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for coming, and please stay around, come to our classes and do the homeworks. We know that
And
we will work on our homeworks. I will work on my homeworks because I also have some delayed.
And we're going to be in Paris for a couple of days on our way to India. We're going to stop in Paris before going. So if you're
23rd, 24th of October, we will be in Paris.
So we'd love to, I think we don't have specific details yet, but we'd love to see you if you can get there then.
Yeah, I think it may be evening of the 23rd. So if you are missing Paris, maybe it will be a good excuse to come. Okay, thank you. We love you and see you tomorrow.
Thank you for joining us here.